1998. Only 2 years left of the 90s, and things were getting intense. 98 would be a year where a president caught in a scandal would utter his famous line. The end of the line for history's greatest sitcom, and the worm would get hooked. Timeline is happy to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, you guys wouldn't be able to tell us who actually killed Kennedy, would you?
90s related questions, please.
You guys want to make out or what?
Oh boy. Today we're going to talk about the news, culture, sports and entertainment, and all that was weird in the 90s. This is Timeline. This one should be great because it's all about 1998. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know your favorite thing from 90s pop culture. Are you ready to ride back to 98?
Get in.
This is 1998.
Well, you gotta be kidding me, man. We're in a spot.
The year would start off rough for the habitual bar smokers of California when puffing in public died on January 1st.
It's 1998, but in my mind it's still 1997. I'm allowed to smoke until 2 a.m.
While a few states had already adopted banning smoking restaurants and diners, it was the Golden State that brought the hammer down, banning smoking in bars, taverns, and gaming clubs. Pretty much everywhere that's fun.
We're gonna have to douse those cigarettes and cigars.
4 days later, Sonny Bono, the hippie singer turned politician, died.
And no matter how long I live or who I meet in my life, that person will always be son for me.
Bono was on vacation and went on a solo skiing run at Heavenly Mountain Resort in Lake Tahoe, California, while his family stayed behind in their hotel. When Bono didn't return, a search team was sent out to find him. Bono was found in a heavily wooded area near the Trail of Orion. He had skied face first into a tree, causing massive head wounds.
He is someone who had been a refreshing voice here in Washington, someone who I think contributed to a little of the fun that we need to have in Washington from time to time.
Oddly enough, Bono's death happened 5 days after Michael Kennedy, the son of the U.S. Senator Robert F. Kennedy, died on the slopes of Aspen Mountain in Colorado from the exact same accident. In mid-January, the king of rockabilly, Carl Perkins, died on January 19th. While not as high profile as his million-dollar quartet contemporaries, which was made up of himself, Elvis, Johnny Cash, and Jerry Lee Lewis, Perkins was the key figure of the early 50s rockabilly scene, which was the driving force of rock and roll. Perkins would record 26 LPs and 17 charted singles, including 1955's Blue Suede Shoes, which his pal Elvis covered for his eponymous debut album the following year.
You can do whatever you want.
But Dawson, I want us to still be friends, and I want to know that you don't hate me.
Your words, Joey. Go.
On January 26th, President Bill Clinton uttered the line that fueled late-night monologues for the next few years, saying the now infamous,
"I did not have sexual relations with that woman."
わからない。突然の心臓停止ってことじゃ。こんな死に目は初めて見たよ。
Moving into February, tragedy struck a ski resort in Italy when an A-6 fighter jet sheared through a steel cable that suspended a tram 250 feet above the ground. The Cavallisi cable car crash killed 20 people, while the aircraft suffered minimal damage and kept right on flying. The pilots destroyed the videotape flight recordings before an investigation began. The maps used by the crew in the A-6 did not indicate the existence of the cables. Nevertheless, investigators found the plane was flying a mere 260 feet above ground, and lower than the 1,000 feet Captain Richard J. Ashby claimed he believed was their altitude. The pilot and navigator would stand trial in a U.S. military court for involuntary manslaughter and negligent homicide, of which they were acquitted. But in a later trial, they were found guilty of obstruction of justice for destroying evidence. 2 days later, author Tom Clancy took time off from counting his millions he earned writing books and selling the movie rights to The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, and Clear and Present Danger, and took some time to buy the Minnesota Vikings.
The ownership of a professional sports franchise is a public trust. Professional sports is about fans, it's not about players. Without the fans, players got nothing to do, and I have to go back to writing books all the time.
But Unfortunately, the NFL wasn't happy that Clancy was going to split up ownership with 9 other investors and called the deal off. Instead, billionaire Texan Red McCombs purchased the Vikings for a seemingly affordable $200 million. In mid-February, the good people of Auckland, New Zealand entered a 5-week run of no electricity. Auckland's power shut down after several 40-year-old power cables corroded in quick succession.
While a lot of buildings have got their own power supplies, the likelihood is that there will be very little business able to be done in the inner city over the next week.
What can you do? Out back it's completely dark. We're trying to find shoes for customers with torches.
Auckland's power returned on March 27th, and Mercury Energy Limited was so embarrassed by the incident, the electric company changed its name to Vector Limited. On February 26th, Oprah Winfrey was found not guilty after a Texas court ruled the daytime talk show host had nothing to do with the previous year's tumbling cattle prices.
Free speech not only lives, it rocks.
It all started on an episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show when her guest Howard Lyman, an organic farmer, animal rights activist, and vegan advocate, talked about the recent mad cow disease that hit the UK. Winfrey then swore off meat, saying she would never eat another hamburger again. Texas cattlemen sued Winfrey for false defamation of perishable food and business disparagement.
Obviously, we're disappointed. At the same time, we do believe that we made one very strong point, that the U.S. beef is safe.
The U.S. wouldn't get its first taste of mad cow until 2005, when the first case was detected in Texas. Naturally, it's unknown if Oprah has gone over 2 decades without a hamburger.
I think I'm going to be off hamburgers after this.
But we doubt it.
Pursuit of a creature commonly called Josh. His recent wild behavior suggests excitement over Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park.
And with a McDonald's Happy Meal, your kids can collect 12 cool creatures, celebrating Disney's most adventurous theme park ever. One wild toy in every $1.99 hamburger Happy Meal you buy your kids.
Ah, the feeding habits of young Josh. I'm sure he won't mind if I sample. Ah!
At the end of February, the Kosovo Liberation Army took the first step in starting the Kosovo War when they went up against the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, which at the time controlled Kosovo. The KLA formed in 1993 in order to fight against the persecution of Kosovo Albanians. The war ended the following year when NATO delivered airstrikes, resulting in Yugoslav troops retreating from Kosovo. Over 13,500 people were killed or went missing during this 2-year war, and the Yugoslav and Serb armies caused the displacement of between 1.2 million and 1.45 million Kosovo Albanians. On the same day, Andrew Wakefield's study on autism was published in the scientific research journal The Lancet. Wakefield's research suggested a link between autism and the MMR vaccine. However, it was later discovered that his work was loaded with data manipulation. Unfortunately, by the time the word was out, Wakefield's controversial study made the rounds and soon became one of the major pillars of the new anti-vaccination movement. We fast forward to 2007, when Jenny McCarthy became the first celebrity face of the anti-vaxxer movement, using Wakefield's flawed research. She insisted her son became autistic after a measles vaccination. Medical advice from the co-host of Singled Out? You can take it if you want to.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Look, man.
Dude, please. Have you ever heard of Vietnam?
Oh, for
You're entering a
sake.
world
Well,
of pain, son. We know that this is your homework. We know that you stole a car.
And the fucking money.
And the fucking money. And we know that this is your homework.
We're gonna cut your off, Larry.
You're killing your father, Larry.
Dr. Dre, the industry's most powerful rap mogul, signed Marshall Mathers on March 9th, which at the time seemed like a horrible move. Mathers had spent the last 10 years making mediocre music and entering local rap battles with very little success. But in the Rap Olympics in Los Angeles, an Interscope Records intern heard Mathers rap and asked him for a copy of the Slim Shady EP. He then passed it to Interscope CEO Jimmy Iovine, who then played it for Dr. Dre, who then said, "Find him, now." In late March, German-based BMW purchased the UK-based Rolls-Royce Motor Car Company for a cool 340 million pounds, or about 570 million American dollars. But BMW wasn't the only one to put in a bid to buy Rolls-Royce. Two small groups, made up of British Rolls-Royce enthusiasts, known as the Rolls-Royce Acquisition Consortium, and another rogue group of investors called the Customer Buyout Team. Both groups stated that their motivation to buy Rolls-Royce is because they didn't want to see the company sold to anyone else outside of the UK. BMW won the bidding war and immediately invested £1 billion, doubling their staff from 2,600 employees to 5,200, and keeping the Rolls-Royce factory in England. Pol Pot, the genocidal Cambodian leader, died in mid-April, shortly after he was placed under house arrest for his crimes against humanity. It all started in April of 1975. Pot decided to transform Cambodia into a utopian agrarian society, where the country would be self-sufficient, with an agricultural force run solely by its imprisoned citizens. Those who refused his vision were systematically taken out and dumped into the fields of Cambodia. Between 1.5 and 2 million people died at the hands of Pol Pot, nearly a quarter of Cambodia's population.
Combatants are getting ready for our battle royale.
What I want is a tough, clean fight. All right, let's get it on.
Spice up your life!
The spice is really flying here tonight. We'll be out in a year, and then we'll be back. See, now, that button is in the worst possible spot.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The second button is the key button. It literally makes or breaks the shirt. Look at it. It's too high. It's in no man's land.
Haven't we had this conversation before?
On the same day as the Seinfeld finale, legendary crooner Frank Sinatra died.
His music is something, but I always like to think of as being the guy's guy, putting his arm around the little guy and letting you know you're a friend.
The Empire State Building was bathed in blue light in honor of Old Blue Eyes, and his second home, Las Vegas, dimmed the lights on the main strip while the city's casino stopped all gambling for 1 minute. The chairman of the board was laid to rest with his favorite things, including a bottle of Jack Daniels, a pack of Camel cigarettes, a Zippo lighter, stuffed toys, a dog biscuit, cherry-flavored Lifesavers, Tootsie Rolls, and a roll of dimes. One of the saddest events of '98 happened in late May when funny man Phil Hartman was murdered by his wife Bryn. Arriving at their Los Angeles home after drinking at the local Buca de Beppo that night, Bryn got into a screaming match with Hartman, a regular occurrence according to acquaintances with the couple. Hartman, always the peacemaker of the two, went to bed. Sometime before 3 a.m., Bryn entered their bedroom and shot Hartman. When the LAPD arrived at their home, Bryn first barricaded herself in the bedroom and then took her own life. Heading into June, Australian long-distance swimmer Susie Maroney became the first person to swim from Mexico to Cuba, finishing the 122-mile trip in 38 hours and 25 minutes. The only rules to ensure that the feat was legit was that she couldn't touch anything, not her cruise boat or the safety cage which protected her from the shark-infested Yucatan Channel. Maroney avoided the sharks, but she suffered dozens of jellyfish stings and bruised wrists and raw knuckles from accidentally hitting her cage.
So glad it's finally over.
Good morning!
Morning! Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Here's a news flash just in. An aircraft in trouble began shedding parts as it flew over Sea Haven just a few moments ago. Do you think it'll climb for it?
Nope.
Oh, good.
I don't believe this. Now we're dumping guys for being too available. This is all solid proof of what I've been reading in this great new book. It says that if you really want to get married, you shouldn't be spending so much time around dysfunctional single women. Chapter 1, how to get ahead by giving head.
On June 14th, the Bulls won their 6th NBA crown, beating the Utah Jazz by 1 point in Game 6. This finals win gave the Bulls their second three-peat, but also marked the end of Chicago's good times. Head coach Phil Jackson resigned. Scottie Pippen got traded to the Houston Rockets. Dennis Rodman signed with the Lakers, and Michael Jordan retired for a second time. Sticking with sports, France exploded on July 12th when Emmanuel Petit chipped a shot past goalie Claudio Taffarel in stoppage to put the bow on top of their win against the heavily favored Brazil in the 1998 FIFA World Cup final. Just before the half, midfielder Zinedine Zidane headed 2 goals for a 2-0 lead, which helped him win Man of the Match honors. Oh, how the times change as we fast forward to 2006, where during the World Cup finals, Zidane headbutted Italian Marco Materazzi, earning himself an immediate red card ejection.
Exactly what the hell is the situation? What, did you shit yourself or something? Oh,
I got it stuck.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Miss Jensen. I just don't want Mary to... I don't want her here, you know?
Let's just relax here, okay? Now, what exactly are we looking at here?
What do you mean? What?
Well, I mean, is it the or the?
Is it the Frank or the beans?
Yeah.
Yo, Richie! Hey, you ready for this?
Willie!
Hey, you ready? Here we go now. Save me the money!
Willie, we're survival. We save everybody the money.
You're not getting it, man! Say it loud and say it proud. Save me the money! Save me the money!
Call Survival. For any car, any driver. Survival offers the lowest rates guaranteed.
Emperor Nicholas II, Russia's last Tsar, was killed in 1918. But he wasn't buried until July 17th. 80 years to the day, he died in the cellar of the Ipatiev house during the Russian Civil War. Under house arrest, Nicholas, along with his wife, children, his personal physician, and his 3 servants, were lured into the basement of the home they were staying in. Nicholas was told by a Bolshevik officer named Yakov Yurovsky that the Ural Soviet of Workers wanted them dead. Nicholas shouted, "You know not what you do," but the soldiers opened fire anyway. In 1979, remains were discovered by amateur archaeologist Alexander Abdonin, and 11 years later, in 1998, they were officially identified.
What we have here is a lot of evidence saying that this is the Tsar, far more than just DNA.
Clear the room! 30 seconds!
North side stick, start with side stick. Move fast and clear those murder holes. Just stand out of your weapon. Keep those actions clear. We'll see you on the beach.
Moving into August, U.S. Navy cruise missiles hit an al-Qaeda base in Khost, Afghanistan, and the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical factory in Khartoum, Sudan, in a military campaign called Operation Infinite Reach.
I ordered our armed forces to strike at terrorist-related facilities in Afghanistan and Sudan because of the threat they present to our national security.
The strike was in retaliation for al-Qaeda's bombings of American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania nearly 2 weeks earlier. Although the strike was considered a success, one of their main targets, Osama bin Laden, was not taken out, bolstering his image in the extremist world. After a 5-year run with the Fugees, Lauryn Hill released her debut LP, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, on August 25th. The album produced 3 chart-topping singles and placed Hill as the leader of the new neo-soul movement, which included D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, and Maxwell. Miseducation would debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and go on to sell over 20 million copies, with Hill setting a record for most units sold. But decades later, Hill has yet to record a follow-up album. Instead, she shunned fame and went into a self-imposed exile, spending most of her days being a mom to her 6 kids, releasing the odd single every now and then, and in 2012, she spent a few months in jail for tax evasion. She's been busy. Heading into September, one of the most influential filmmakers of all time, Akira Kurosawa, died. Kurosawa's film The Seven Samurai and Rashomon influenced George Lucas and Brian De Palma. Kurosawa slipped and fell during the post-production of his 1999 film After the Rain, breaking the base of his spine. It would be the last film Kurosawa would ever direct. This also kept Kurosawa from dying directing on set, which was his final wish. During the bottom of the 7th inning against the Montreal Expos on September 8th, Mark McGwire connected with the first pitch from rookie Carl Pavano, sending a line drive over Busch Stadium's left field wall. The MLB-setting 70th dinger was Big Mac's final at-bat of the '98 season, but more importantly, it changed Phil Ozerski's life forever. Ozerski snatched McGwire's 70th home run ball, and 3 months later, Ozerski sold the ball to comic book artist Todd McFarlane for a cool $3.05 million. But Big Mac's special sauce would be part of the Mitchell Report on HBH in the early 2000s.
It is my understanding that Major League Baseball and the Players Union have taken steps to address the steroid issue. If these policies need to be strengthened, I would support that.
Make some noise. When you're hot, you're hot. The Backstreet Boys, join us. Welcome to Backstreet TV. I'm Carson Daly. We're live on MTV. Thank you if you're watching still from TRL. Guys, Nice to have you here. What's up?
What? Track and field fans had never seen anything like Florence Griffith Joyner before. She was bold, brash, flashy, and was the fastest woman alive, setting world records in 1988 for the 100 and 200 meter, which still stand today. But on September 21st, Florence Griffith Joyner died unexpectedly at the age of 38 in 1998 in her sleep at home in Orange County, California. The cause of her death was suffocation during a severe epileptic seizure. It was a condition she had due to a congenital vascular brain abnormality. The U.S. Treasury Department dropped its new high-tech $20 bill into circulation on September 24th, after being the most counterfeited bill. It was the first time since 1929 that the bill had been redesigned. The Treasury made some pretty significant changes to the bill in order to fend off forgeries, including a bigger, off-center portrait of President Andrew Jackson, color-shifting ink, finely detailed microprinting, a watermark, and a machine-readable feature for the blind, which proved nearly impossible to recreate. The world was officially introduced to Britney Spears on September 28th, when her debut single, Baby One More Time, was released, skyrocketing to #1 in 26 countries, selling 10 million copies and winning 16 awards for Song of the Year. Spears was given Baby One More Time, a tune that singer Toni Braxton passed on. While the song was undeniably catchy, the video of Spears as an innocent nubile Catholic schoolgirl, replete with plaid miniskirt and pigtails, was all it took to set preteens, teens, and creepy old guys on a pure obsession path. Sticking with music, the next day, Atlanta duo Outkast released Aquemini. Aquemini was something of an unofficial sequel to A.T. Aliens. Big Boy and Andre continued to build on the themes and sounds of outer space and accounts of technology addiction and the fragile balance of their clashing personalities. These personality issues would fuel their next two albums, 2000's Stankonia and 2003's Speakerbox, The Love Below. But personality differences were also what ultimately split the two friends apart. When the band recorded their last album, Idlewild, Big Boy and Andre 3000 were recording separately in different studios, and for the most part, they didn't even appear on each other's tracks.
The official spokes candies of the new millennium.
Millennium? Isn't everybody gonna be milking that thing?
But not in 98.
And that would be the dazzling part, huh?
Oh, it's brilliant. We'll be the first ones out of the gate. We'll run it into the ground, and by the time the year 2000 gets here, the whole thing will be passé.
And then what are you gonna do?
We're, gonna be spokes candies for the hair club for men.
I'm also a client.
Moving into October, the Pentagon announced that they would be shelling out around $50 million in order to provide Viagra to active and retired military personnel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pardon me. With $50 million worth of Viagra, the entire military-industrial complex will be locked, cocked, and ready to rock. Pretty scary, huh?
Viagra made a pretty big splash in 1998 when it debuted earlier in the year when the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved the pill on March 27. Pfizer originally developed the drug for blood pressure. 6 days later, University of Wyoming student Matthew Shepard was found tied to a fence outside Laramie, Wyoming, after being robbed and beaten by Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. McKinney and Henderson met Shepard at a bar in town, befriended him, offered him a ride home, then ambushed him, tied him to a barbed wire fence and beat him, and then left him for dead. A cyclist who initially rode past him, mistaking him for a scarecrow, called for help. Shepard would be taken to Poudre Valley Hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado, but died 6 days after the attack. McKinney and Henderson would eventually both receive 2 consecutive life terms. On October 8th, 31 Democrats joined with Republicans in supporting the House of Representatives authorizing the impeachment inquiry of President Bill Clinton and the exposed Clinton-Lewinsky affair. Clinton notoriously had always gotten away relatively clean when it came to his alleged affairs, but this time he flew too close to the sun. In mid-October, America's polka king, Frankie Yankovic, who is in no way related to Weird Al Yankovic, died. In the 50-plus years he spent squeezing his accordion, Yankovic sold 30 million records, had 4 Grammy nominations with 1 win, and played with Weird Al on his 1996 LP, Songs of the Polka King, Volume 1. 2 days later, Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet was arrested in London for the human rights violations he committed in his own country and was held under house arrest. Pinochet's downfall came at the end of his 17-year regime and ferocious repression against Chileans, ending the lives of thousands of innocent people in the process. When he returned home from the UK, the Chilean judge charged Pinochet with several more crimes, but the case never went to trial because on December 10, 2006, Pinochet died. His passing still doesn't sit right with most Chileans, who say that Pinochet's memory is still an open wound. 2 weeks later, Senator and former astronaut John Glenn was launched back into space on October 29th, making him the oldest person at 77 years old to ever travel the cosmos.
Let the record show that John has a smile on his face and it goes from one ear to the other one, and we haven't been able to remove it yet.
His 9-day mission took place nearly 40 years after he became the third American to enter space and the first to orbit Earth, circling the Big Blue Marble 3 times in 1962. The Ohioan and the 6 other crew members returned to Earth on November 7th, bringing back test results pertaining to how space travel affects the immune system, bone and muscle density, metabolism, and blood flow of civilians. After a short whirlwind romance, Carmen Electra and Dennis Rodman decided to tie the knot in Las Vegas. The marriage never had a chance, though. Rodman had been a notorious womanizer, hooking up with the likes of Madonna, Toni Braxton, and Vivica A. Fox prior to marrying Electra. Rodman's most flagrant foul was when Electra walked in on him in bed with 2 women. When Electra asked him who the women were, Rodman said, "I don't know who these women are. They fell from the ceiling." 9 days later, Rodman filed for an annulment from Electra. 5 days later, Vincent van Gogh's self-portrait without a beard sold for $71.5 million to a private collector. The painting is believed to be Van Gogh's final self-portrait before he took his own life in 1890. His somber expression also reflects one of his darkest periods, when he fell out with his good friend and artist, Paul Gauguin. And of all 35 known self-portraits Van Gogh painted, this is the only one without his beard. While the multi-staged assembly of the International Space Station was years in the making, its first module was launched into orbit on November 20th. 2 weeks later, Space Shuttle Endeavour followed, which brought Unity, the second of 3 node modules, and connected it to Zarya. Ultimately, the building of the complete station required more than 40 assembly flights. The 400-ton space station is now about the size of a soccer field, and is so big you could see it with the naked eye from Earth. While it wouldn't be in the US for another year, Sega launched their Dreamcast in Japan in late November. Unbeknownst to Sega, this would be the company's last hurrah for home consoles. While Sega's classic Genesis was a massive hit, Dreamcast's disappointing sales created massive financial losses, and the company ended the dream in 2001. And finally, Kylian Mbappé was born on December 20th in Paris. At 16, Mbappé made his professional football debut in 2015 for the Ligue 1 club Monaco. 2 years later, Mbappé signed with Paris Saint-Germain for 180 million euros, or a little over $213 million, making him the highest paid teenage player ever. And that's how 1998 would end. 1999 was just a week away, and it would be a year where Y2K would set the world on edge. A wrestler would become governor, and we would all learn what is the Matrix. Whoa. But that is for next year. Just take it easy on yourself while you wait. Coming soon, 1999. So what do you think? What do you miss about the 90s? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out these other 90s timeline videos.